Hi everyone, and welcome to the first video about Curse of the Seventh Fairy. It's a tile-laying puzzle game for 1 to 6 players. Each player will play one of the good fairies from the story of Sleeping Beauty, trying to lift the curse that has been placed on the Princess Aurora. What players are going to be doing is trying to complete one of these recipe cards, which show a series of magical potions. To complete the recipe card, they'll be using elements and machines that they collect from the spinning wheel board here, placing them on their player board. Once they've completed a potion, they'll be using one of their completion cubes to mark it, returning all of their primary elements, and then rearranging their board to go on to make some more potions. The game is a race between all players, and whoever completes their card first will win. So, how do we go about creating these potions? As you can see on this card here, I would need to create yellow and purple stripes. Now the last stage of that is the stripes. So I would need one of these stripe machines, and that would need to point into the cauldron in the centre of my player board here. You can see that the arrow points directly into the cauldron, showing its output. What I need now is I need both yellow and purple to point into that striper. Well, yellow is nice and easy. This yellow primary element tile here can just point directly into the striper there to create our yellow stripes. Now purple is a secondary colour. It's not available on the board, so I'm going to need one of these blenders to be able to make a secondary colour. That points into my stripes machine here, and then I'm going to need the two colours that make me purple. Now this can either be blue or red, so we place this here next to the blender, and then I would need one of the other colours. Here's a blue one here, and that would also need to point into the blender. So here we have blue and red into the blender to make purple, and yellow makes our purple and yellow stripes. So if I just completed this potion, I would take one of my completion cubes, I'd pop it on that one there to show that I've done that first potion on my recipe card. Then I would return these 3 element tiles back to the board, which I'll do in the full playthrough later, and then I would get to move tiles around my board. And remember, this is the only time you can move tiles on your board, so I might need to tuck the stripe machine out the way, but it's still taking up space, and I may need the blender somewhere else later. Over the course of the game, you're going to be trying to make all of your different potions. Some of the cards have got 3, 4 or 5 potions on, and it's just a race to see who gets there first. So, how are players going to gather all the tiles that we need within the game? What's going to happen on your turn is you're going to roll both of these dice. So I've got a 5 and a 6 here. That means I could move 5 or 6 spaces in either direction around the outside of the wheel. Okay, so I'm the red player here. I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I jumped over because no counter can ever occupy the same space. So say, for example, I've moved 5 spaces here. There's a primary element tile here, so I would have to collect this. And I place that somewhere on my player board. Now, if I'd landed in an empty space, like I have now, I would be able to take this blender from the next section of the wheel. If I landed in a sector, you can see the thicker spoke lines on the wheel. So if I landed in an empty sector, I would be able to take either spots or stripes from the centre of the wheel or the blender here. So that's how I get access to the other types of machines. Now, instead of picking up a tile, I could also put a tile back, providing it follows the same rules. So if I landed here, I could put back a primary element tile. You may need to do this to free up space on your board to undo some mistakes that you've made, or there's an advantage of doing that as well. If you put a tile back, you could also collect one of these switcher tiles. Okay, I'll just take this stripes as well to show you how that works on the player board. So if I'd made a mistake and I'd put this tile here and I needed to point it into my cauldron, when I put a tile back on the board, I can collect this switcher. I can then drop it there on top of that stripes machine, changing the direction of the arrow. So that now points into my cauldron, meaning that I could complete the potion that I've got here. I could also use it if I needed an extension. So I could place the switch tile there, extending the arrow into the cauldron. That shows you how that works on all the various types of tiles. Now, Every time you collect a switcher tile, what happens is you also need to take one of these blocking tiles and you must place that on your player board. Now, when you brew a potion, you normally get to move all of the tiles around on your board, but you can't move these blocking tiles. So once you've picked one up, it's going to be there for the rest of the game. The switcher tile goes back onto the main player board, just in the corner there, as soon as you've used it. But you'll be stuck with this blocker forever. So it gets you out of trouble if you do make some mistakes, or you need to reset a different type of plan on your board. But the penalty comes from the blocker tiles that are then going to take up space for the rest of the game. So that was a brief overview of how all the different elements of the game work. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to film a gameplay video using the 3 players you can see here. I'll just be playing it on one player board though. So thanks very much for watching this introductory video, and if you want to check out the full gameplay video, that will also be on the channel. Thanks very much. Bye.